Welcome to Social JumpStart, the television program about social media. I'm Mike Wolpert, and today's show is about blogging and about how the blog can be your center in your social media universe, how the blog can be your home on the internet. And today's guest, Sally Kuhlman, is author and publisher of the extraordinarily popular blog Sally Around the Bay, a beloved Bay Area blog. Sally, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about SallyAroundTheBay.com, how you got started, what kind of motivated you, and a little bit about the journey.
Okay, I started my blog a few years ago, I think in 2008, this particular blog, and I'll start with why I named it Sally Around the Bay, besides the obvious of me going around the bay. It's also Sally is a word in the dictionary that means to go out on an adventure or excursion. And that's why I started the blog, to inspire myself to go out on more adventures and excursions. At the time I was working from home and I was getting kind of hermit-like and I needed to do something. So I started the blog to go out and find all the treasures of the Bay Area. Restaurants, places to go out in nature, hiking, biking, etc. And every time I found something I liked, I blogged about it to share with the world. And my blog is really for locals and for visitors to discover things that they might not know about in the Bay Area.
So what started out as a record or a tool to force you to have more adventures and more adventuresome life kind of grew into a life of its own as you developed a following and a fan base. And a lot of what you covered in the early days were restaurants, but it's much more than that now, isn't it?
Right. I started out with mostly restaurants, and every time I went to a restaurant I liked, I would blog about it. And it's grown to anything, hiking trails, biking, just random things to do, taking a ferry ride. And then it's, over the last couple of years, it's even evolved into my opinion of life in the Bay Area, the culture of the Bay Area, what I see when I'm roaming around the Bay Area, and just kind of my take on what's happening around here.
And so to engage people, both sharing what you publish on the blog and to meet and greet and make new friends on the internet, you're using just more than just your blog, right? You're on Twitter, Facebook. I know you have some videos on YouTube and that kind of stuff. How does that all come in and play in together?
Well, I do use all the social media sites, all the popular ones right now. And the reason I use them is to build relationships with people and to lead them to my blog. Because that's what social media is for. It's for building relationships, getting to know people. And I've found that most of my traffic to my blog actually comes from Twitter. So it's a very useful tool for driving traffic to your site.
Ah, perfect. So when people come to your site, they find an enormous resource, and you've turned that following, that group of people that are your readers, or your audience, and you've kind of, I've watched you morph that into some online stuff, of course, but also into some real life events.
The blog has really turned into this amazing thing for me, where I use it along with Twitter to organize events such as tweet-ups, which are where I put an announcement out on Twitter and invite all my friends in quote, on Twitter to meet up at a restaurant. And I started organizing these tweet-ups 2 years ago, and people came, and it was amazing. And those people are now some of my best friends. And so I was able to use the online world to create in real life friends.
And that's really what it's about, because if social media is a great way of meeting people around the world, but for businesses and practitioners and people who want to use social media to engage their customers, at some point it has to come out of the computer and into the office, or restaurant, or place. And in the dark, distant past, say 1999, that would be weird. I would always think that was kind of weird, to meet people you met online in real life.
Yes, it used to be seen as creepy and scary.
Right, but now it's totally natural.
Changed.
Right.
I mean, everybody's online now. Your grandma's online, your kid's online.
Right.
And the world has changed a lot, and people are much more comfortable with meeting someone they met online.
And I've found, even through some of your tweet-ups, the people that I meet are people that I'm predisposed to like, because I've kind of already met them, or seen them online. But I think the underlying truth is that we have a shared commonality. We have a shared common interest, and we kind of know what that is. And so we meet each other with kind of a predisposed rapport. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you feel like you know each other already.
Right.
Because you kind of do. Sometimes it's a one-way street. Sometimes people feel they know me better than I know them because they've been reading my blog.
Right.
But people also converse with me on my blog and on Twitter. And then I feel like I know them too because we've actually had many conversations day in and day out. They know when I do my laundry. They know everything about me. And so when I do meet them in real life, I just get so excited I want to give them a hug because I feel like they're my best friend already.
See, that's great. And you actually have a lot of experiences of people reading your blog, taking your advice, if you will, checking out a place, be it a restaurant, a trail, whatever, and then you get feedback through that, don't you?
Right. I do. That actually happened today.
Today?
Somebody sent me a tweet earlier today and said, I read your blog post about this restaurant and I'm going to go try it today. She doesn't live in the Bay Area. She just happened to be here. And I said, well, let me know when you're there. I'll come say hi because it's right across the street from where I was today. And I met a new friend today thanks to my blog.
A new friend who gets to meet a local celebrity.
And the local restaurant got a new customer today because of my blog.
And so it goes. I'd love to talk to people about how blogging works. But tell me, for starters, a little bit about the transition from I'm just writing a couple articles about stuff and how you built your following and how you kind of got started to be fairly notorious in a good way.
Okay, well, I started out, the stuff I was writing about was mostly restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of a self-proclaimed foodie, but I'm not actually a foodie. I just know what I like and what I don't like. But every time I found a good restaurant, I blogged about it because I wanted to share the information about the restaurant with the world. And I also had this one rule for myself back then that I wasn't going to put anything negative out on the internet. So if I went to a really bad restaurant, I just didn't talk about it. So that people knew then if I actually blogged about it, it was a good restaurant. Mm-hmm. And through the years, besides restaurants, I just started doing anything I discovered. Hiking trails, places to bike, just cool random things around the Bay Area. And then I started blogging more just whenever I was inspired. Sometimes I don't blog about places anymore. I blog my opinion or how I see the world or what's happening in the Bay Area, kind of the culture of the Bay Area. It's just through my own perspective. And the way I built my following was mostly through Twitter. I have most of my web traffic actually still comes from Twitter. And I built up my Twitter account by just getting to know people, talking to people, building conversations. And then you mentioned I do events. I was organizing tweet-ups, which is when you put out an invitation on Twitter and invite all your Twitter friends to join you somewhere. And it fit nicely with my blog since I was blogging about restaurants. I would organize tweet-ups at restaurants that I liked and bring all my Twitter friends. And they grew into groups of 20 to 40 people, depending on the night and the event. Sort of
a bizarre concept for those of us of a certain age that you would deliberately want to meet people that you met online in real life.
Right.
And I thought it was really weird because you and I actually met through Twitter Foursquare, really. If I remember, we were playing Foursquare at a restaurant in Marin, Cafe Gratitude. I became the mayor. And then all of a sudden, these women started tweeting me about how dare you take our mayorship. And I'm like, what exactly is even a mayorship? And I thought it was really weird. And then you invited me to lunch.
Right. And I invited you to one of our lunch tweet-ups.
Right.
And you decided to come because you're very brave. And you joined us. I think it was all women that time.
It was.
There was maybe 8 or 9 women and you.
Yeah, it was a big selling point, quite frankly. Want to come for lunch? Not really. There's going to be 9 women and you. Ho! Suddenly my calendar's clear. But I had never really taken that step. I mean, that's the ultimate blind date.
It is, and it is scary. In the olden days, as in less than 10 years ago, when we first all started networking online with strangers, you would say you're going to go meet with your online friends and everybody, your family and real friends would get very concerned. And so just in the past few years, it's starting to become normal. It's still, a lot of people are reserved, but they're seeing that it's happening, and for the most part, you're just meeting real people. And that's the beauty of Twitter and blogs, is you attract people that are similar to you. Because the people that are reading your blog most likely like what you're writing, and the people that read your tweets also like what you're writing. So you bring into your world people that are people you probably like.
Sure.
And so when you go out there and organize an event, it's most likely going to be people you like. And that's what happened to me. The first tweet up, 20 people came, and they were instantly my best friends. I already felt like I knew them because we've been talking online for so long that they knew me better than my family that I live with, because they read my tweets and my family doesn't.
And you have, and I know that I have, such a shared commonality with the group of Twitter people from Marin. And now we all live in the Bay Area, so that means, great food, great fun, hiking, biking, water. But to be able to discover through tweet ups that I actually genuinely like these people, and they become real life friends, and it's pretty exciting. And I like what you said about you felt like you already knew them, because I had the same experience. By the time I met in real life and continue to meet in real life people that I know from Twitter, there's already a sense of comfortableness and kind of like, aha, oh, of course, you're so-and-so. And so let's talk a little bit about how that is applicable for businesses. Because I think that once you're having that sort of relationship with people, what can businesses do to use blogging and social media to build those sort of relationships with customers and prospects?
I think businesses could benefit greatly from blogging, Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media they choose to use. Oh, and don't forget about Google Plus these days.
Sure.
Because there's been many studies that have shown, I can't quote the exact study right now, that familiarity breeds liking. And so if businesses are on Twitter and Facebook and communicating with you, you start getting familiar with them. You see them a lot. And communication's the key word, not just a business on there broadcasting that we're having a sale today, come in, buy this, do this. It's the businesses that are actually have humans working behind the screen that are typing those blog posts and typing the tweets and interacting with their customers. If someone puts out there on their blog or on their Twitter that they don't like this company, they did this, they're horrible, I'm never going to use them again, and that company just ignores them, other people might start saying, oh, I don't like them either, and a whole negative conversation can start. But if the company jumps in right away and says, so sorry this happened, how can we help you? Here's a gift card, let's do this or that, then the person that was initially angry might be like, oh wow, they do care about me, it was just a mistake. And it's changed the whole conversation. Everybody else sees that, wow, this company actually pays attention to its customers and cares about them.
Right.
And then it brings a whole different awareness to the company.
So a company that might initially be afraid of what's going on in social media, because I just talked to my dentist, and she is, I call her Dr. Awesome. I mean, she is, who likes their dentist? I love my dentist. She's that good. And so I noticed that she has many, many, many great Yelp reviews, and one bad one from somebody who she just couldn't please. So she is fearful of social media and, people they could write anything. And so I kind of had the same conversation with her. So she actually went online and offered the best explanation to somebody. Some customers, let's face it, are completely, you're never going to please everybody. But what happened for her was she addressed the problem. She communicated with the person, and really she did that in a public forum on Yelp. So now everybody that goes to her Yelp site, or everybody that goes to check her out on Yelp, sees, I don't really know if there's 47 positive reviews, but really she's a stellar person, stellar dentist, and one, kind of crappy negative comment. Right. But she addressed it. So I think that for business people that are hesitant about that kind of thing, they have to take into account that everybody is smarter than sometimes traditional media takes them for, right? I mean, if everybody's going to look at a series of comments, and if there's one bad one, yeah, okay, so there are some jerks in the world. So, but it's that engagement of people. So, in addition to business using Yelp and actively monitoring what their people are saying on a review site, not just Yelp, but on others, how can they use a blog to, I don't want to necessarily focus on promoting their business, but better communicating their expert status at what they do, because that's what this is all about.
I think, let me use a restaurant as an example.
Sure.
I think restaurants could use blogs to let people get to know who they are, to be like, go in the back, take some pictures of the chef, some of the food they're preparing, and write little stories about where they purchased the food, where the chef came from, who this waitress is, and featured all the different people working there. And because when you get to know people, you get to like them and you get to care about them. And then that translates into the Yelp reviews, because people that know who you are and they're like, oh, that's Joe, he's from here and he's the one that makes my food, you're less likely to go write a bad review about Joe if you actually feel like you know who he is.
Right.
And that's just another way to build relationships. To me, social media is all about building relationships, and I think businesses that focus on building relationships are a lot more successful. And that's why I would use social media.
Right. I actually have found, I was an early adopter of Facebook personally, and it became, back in the old days when it was kind of weird to be on Facebook, I had tons of friends. And even now I have people say, well, I watch you on Facebook, meaning I guess they see my posts. So that means they're not commenting, because otherwise I'd know. They're not even giving me the thumbs up like, which is pretty simple, but they are aware of the stuff I post. That's of interest. That's kind of interest to them. So I'm not getting the kind of exact feedback that I would expect.
That you could measure.
That I could measure, exactly. So for a restaurant or a business, getting that kind of feedback, they're going to have to take some of that on faith, aren't they?
Right. And there's little tricks and tips to getting more feedback. For instance, for yourself on Facebook, you might want to pose questions once in a while. Ask people opinions, like, do you like this color shirt or this color shirt better when I'm doing my TV show?
Right.
And then you might find you're getting a lot of interaction because people like to share their opinion with you.
And I have about 17 blue shirts, so maybe I should consider what...
All mine are purple, so...
I have a purple shirt. I'm glad I didn't wear it today. So when restaurants are using social media, when they're using their blog, they are talking about what they do, how they do it, and why they're passionate about it. But really what you're saying is that they're opening it up and giving kind of a behind-the-scenes look, a more personal look.
Another thing restaurants could do would be to feature their customers. Take some pictures around, and you can put that on Facebook, and then tell your customer, I'm going to put this on a Facebook page. You can get their permission, and they're going to go tag themselves. And then all their friends are going to see that you ate at this restaurant, and that's a way to just spread the word. Also, and that's not necessarily measurable, but it's just like word of mouth. In the olden days, before social media, you couldn't measure word of mouth.
Right.
And that's what social media is these days. It's word of mouth.
Right.
I might put something out on Twitter that I love this restaurant. I have no idea how many people read that tweet, but they might go try that restaurant because I said that.
So it's not even for a business owner or a business manager if they're using social media to build relationships, to connect, to share behind the scenes instead of going, half price Tuesday and hammering home that kind of message. But if they're really being genuine and having actual conversations with actual customers, let's talk a little bit about the impact beyond the initial footprint. Because when I talk to you, and when we interact on Facebook or on Twitter, it's not just you and I talking.
Right.
It's who else is listening? Who else is privy to the conversation, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the expanding social graph or the expanding social footprint with everybody kind of watching what people are doing is where it begins to get interesting.
Definitely.
And since we originally met, sort of, through Foursquare, and there's a number of similar kind of things, which is really nothing more than a game, which now businesses are starting to be able to use.
Right.
And restaurants in particular. So how could a restaurant maximize their presence with Foursquare? Have you seen some good examples of that?
Yes, there are restaurants that take the time to get to learn how to use the program, and they register themselves as a business with Foursquare. And then what they do is they watch it, and they have someone on staff who's watching to see who checked in.
Right.
And so say I'm in a restaurant and I check in, then they're going to go and either comment on my Foursquare or comment on Twitter and say, hope you're enjoying it. Or they might send me over some free French fries or something.
Right. Make you feel welcome.
Yeah, and special. Everybody wants to feel special.
Everybody wants to feel special. I walked into a restaurant not too long ago and was greeted with Mr. Mayor in front of my friends. Now,
That's nice.
sometimes hello. In this world, hello makes you feel good. But hello, Mr. Mayor, that's kind of a big deal.
Right.
Did I spend more? Maybe. Will I come back more often?
Probably.
Sure, absolutely. Will I tell my friends? I'll tell you exactly what restaurant it is, too, after the show. But and so a restaurant, a business of any kind, has to put some effort into social media. Now, there's advertising takes capital, dollars expended. You got to buy a schedule on the radio. You have to buy an ad in the newspaper. Social media, though, really isn't free because you have to put human capital into it. You have to put some time.
It doesn't have to take a lot of time.
Yeah. Can you really engage people through social media and not let it be all consuming? I know some business people watching feel maybe, I don't have time, I'm so busy running the business.
Right, and that's very common with restaurants because they are so busy. It's not easy to run a restaurant. But I think you could, personally, I know you can, I've done it for businesses, you could manage your social media in 15 minutes a day or less.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is check it. And if you have a smartphone, it makes it even easier. If you don't have a smartphone, consider investing in it because when you're standing in line at the grocery store, you could be checking your social media. You can multitask when you have a smartphone. And you just have to check it. You go on your Twitter just once a day. You see which customers talk to you. And then you write them back right then. You can just do bing, 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 all in that 15 minutes.
Right.
Then hop over to Facebook, see if anyone's put anything on your page or mentioned you, thank them. And that's it for the social media. The blogging might take a little bit longer, but not necessarily. You can blog. People love photographs, videos, so you can just snap pictures around your business and just put them up on your blog in 1 or 2 sentences. People like shorter these days. Nobody
Right.
has time to read a big, long blog post.
Right.
They're more likely to look at a picture of yummy food with a description of it than they are to read this big 2-page blog post about whatever.
And it doesn't have to be super professional food photography either.
No.
It doesn't have to be
Give me your smartphone
your
photography.
smartphone. It could be a little iPhone movie.
Right.
In fact, some of the coolest stuff is done with iPhone movies or smartphone
And I've
movies.
found and I've heard and I've read that the homemade stuff these days tends to be more successful because it feels more authentic and more real than if a business brings in the whole team and does some polished, super expensive video clip.
Right.
Instead, they just walked around with their phone and interviewed a few customers and slapped it up on Facebook. People are like, that's cool.
Right.
It's real. It's not fake. It's not staged.
I see from what you do, you use the social platforms to bring people to you. You use the social platforms, and by that I mean Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. So you're using those to spread the word about SallyAroundTheBay.com, and you are sharing information, but you're also bringing people into your universe. Right. How important is that in the scheme of things?
I think it's very important to have your own universe. I call it my home, my home base. You either need a website or a blog because Facebook, Twitter, they could just disappear one day. They could turn into MySpace. and nobody's there anymore. And so you don't want to rely totally on someone else's technology. You want to use a blog or a website that you own. You want to own your own domain, and you want to pay for the hosting. So it's kind of your parking place, and it's yours. And I don't know if you own it, but you're renting that space in hosting, and you park yourself there, and everything else can lead back to there.
Right.
I mean, you can't just put up a website and blog and expect to have readers either, which a lot of people do. It's like opening a store and sticking the open sign, expecting people to find you in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So that's why you want to use the social media. Besides just getting to know people, building relationships, it's another way for people to find you. You want people to know about your services and what you do. And so you use all those to bring them back to your home base.
Right. That's perfect. So the blog is as the center of your social media universe, the blog as your home on the internet. You can tweet about it, meet people on Twitter. You can post it to Facebook and make connections through Facebook. If you're doing simple videos, you then can use that same video on your blog. You can tweet a link to it. You can post it on YouTube and put it up on Facebook.
Definitely.
So spreading the word, but ultimately what you're saying is you want to bring people home to your place so you can build long, sustained relationships with them.
Right, because it'll always be there.
It'll always be there, and it'll always be fun. Sally Kuhlman, SallyAroundTheBay.com. Thank you very much for being on the show. I always enjoy talking to you, and I always enjoy seeing you around Marin and at the Marin Tweet-Ups, which you are marvelous at organizing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Social Media on Television, Social JumpStart, live in our new home at the Tag.com studios. We'll see you next time. I'm Mike Wolpert.